Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam on this amazing Mental Health Monday. We are powered by the OBBM Network, and you can catch us on all your streaming platforms. What is going on, Sam?
Hey, it is a beautiful Monday. I hope everybody out there had a wonderful Easter. And, the videos keep streaming in because not everybody had wonderful Easters like our first responders that had to work and be away from their families, but also put up with his shenanigans that continue to go on. And, I think we talked about this a little bit when in 2019, when things first started to go a little nuts. And the issues that we spoke about in terms of damage to the mental health of our first responders were going to, come to light. And obviously 2019 was our worst year. We lost more first responders to suicide. And thank goodness, not only through the work that we're doing here at A Badge of Honor, the work that our guest is doing, talking to huge audiences, and all of the grassroots and speakers that we've had on to really instill and hammer home, hey, there are things you can do to help yourself when it comes to battling a stressful career that's going to last 2, 3, sometimes 4 decades if you're doing it here in Texas. Because, we meet people that started when they were 10. And tonight is no exception. And our guest has left rooms speechless. He's made them emotional, and I mean all the spectrums of the emotion. I don't want to intro the show with his YouTube video. We'll talk about that, and people can watch it after the show is over. But he's done a lot for our first responder community because he's been through a lot. And he doesn't, he wants to share the message that, hey, it's okay not to be okay, but here are some tools and how you stay sharp. And he is the founder of The Fractured Mind. I love that title.
Me too.
And so without further ado, let's bring Evan Easter onto A Badge of Honor TV. Welcome, Evan.
Hey, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. What an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Hey, tell everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app before we dive in deep a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Evan Easter, and I live in Central Illinois. I've been a cop it'll be 23 years in July, and the majority of my career has been over and covert narcotics and a lot of gang suppression, things of that nature, high value targets. Along the way, I've bounced around. I've worked as a supervisor. I've worked undercover narcotics for a decade. I've done multiple tours on our gang unit, multiple tours on our SWAT unit. And then obviously we get to it at one point, the wheels finally come off.
Yeah, you and John have a lot in common in terms of what you guys worked in your backgrounds.
Yeah, and Evan, you bring up a great point. There's a lot of, and especially when we're younger, because we feel like we're invincible at that time, or when we're in that moment, we don't realize the damage that is causing to the brain on over and over on all these like narcotics and search warrants and all these other things, until we stop doing what we're doing and we sit down and our brain gets to really think about, oh my God, we've just swallowed so much trauma over the last decade. We didn't even realize it because it was a purpose then. And now when we lose that purpose, when we retire or we get out of that unit, it all starts to sink in.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of the amount of dopamine and cortisol and adrenaline, ultra levels that have gone through my body is just unreal. I'll tell a few of the stories here in a little bit. A lot of times too, it's the 0 to 1,000 mile an hour. I've been in the right or the wrong place at the wrong time. I cannot tell you how many times. It's been unbelievable.
Well, we had a conversation prior to today where you're talking about the longer you're in, it's like you're searching for that dopamine. You've got to start running at 1,000 miles an hour because you don't know how to do less.
Correct. When I speak to, I always talk about neuroplasticity. I'll nerd out a little bit into the science of it because I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, I learned all this later on when the wheels came off, but I didn't realize that just this ultra exposure over time and time and time literally rewires the way that your brain functions. And it ends up being where you can actually, like John had talked about, the reason that you can operate this is because your brain has learned to eat these massive levels of dopamine and cortisol, which is obviously terrible for you. So real life is just no longer possible. It cannot provide enough brain stimulation or enough pressure on your brain for you to get like the reward chemicals that you're supposed to get, like from coming home, seeing your family, seeing your kids, seeing your life, normal life. Once that happens, it's over. It is completely over.
Yeah, it definitely affects your coping mechanisms because you handle everything either as a threat or a challenge, and you don't know how to do those basic interactions anymore. You know, everything, even the general conversation is you're on the offensive all the time, or you're ready to, something big to happen. And that's where your mind goes. And like you said, the neuroplasticity in your brain just changes over time. And we don't teach our younger officers how to deal with that throughout their career so that they do learn how to decompress and this doesn't happen on retirement or, God forbid, an injury and it puts them off the job.
Yeah, 100%.
So with your career, Evan, and everything all the different units that you worked in, when did you first notice the change?
I can tell you 100%. So I had worked already a tour in our gang and already tour SWAT. I worked for a decade undercover. I was fortunate enough. I got to do a couple Title III wiretaps with the FBI. I mean, I bought millions and millions of dollars in. I probably served almost 1,000 search warrants, somewhere around there. I don't have an exact number, but it was crazy. And one night I was home. I was never home. Our unit was very busy, very productive, and we were working almost 100 hours a week. And one night I just happened to be home. And I put my daughter to bed. She was probably 4 or 5 at the time. And I was trying to broker. I can't even remember what it was. It was like a $10,000 drug deal. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a pretty high drug deal for us in terms of numbers. And I can remember I was reading the book to her and I started to read it and I heard my work phone go off down the hall. And I thought, I got to get to that thing right now. And I read one page out of that book and I closed the book, and the look on my daughter's face, she was completely mortified that I was home and that all I was going to do was read one page because I knew I needed to get to that phone and I could not break it. I couldn't shake. That face was so stuck in my mind, I couldn't get rid of it. And I mean, at this point too, I started to have some other problems. I was sleeping downstairs. I couldn't sleep in bed with my wife. I was sleepwalking. I started drinking a little bit more. Life just, I can see like this is going somewhere I don't necessarily want it to go. So that's when I walked away from the narcotics unit after a decade.
What made you realize that? What was the aha moment? That was it that moment?
100%. I couldn't get rid of it. All I could see was her face in my mind. I was trying to work. I was trying to do all this stuff and I couldn't get rid of it. It was like it was just burned inside my brain. And I'm like, she didn't ask for that. She just wants a dad. Like, and I'm so out here just chasing these unbelievable things, And I think one of the things too that's kind of, it's not bad here or a trap, but I mean, you get rewarded for doing all these ultra dangerous things. I have a wall upstairs of more rewards than you could ever imagine. So, I mean, you kind of get along the way. You definitely get rewarded for stepping into these spaces.
Yeah, I would say, like our partner says, those rewards leave scars because it's everything that you went through to get those awards. And sometimes, Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you said there's a note. I'll talk about another note here, but I spoke at the CIT conference in July of last year in Peoria here in Central Illinois. My wife stuck a note in my shoe. It's a pretty powerful term in there. She writes basically essentially that she's super proud of me and that I get to share my story, but she just wished I didn't have all those scars.
Yeah. Yeah. When we come back, we will talk more to Evan about his, I'll call it nonstop full throttle career, and how he learned to not balance, because we never balance, but after noticing and leaving narcotics, first of all, how you decided to leave. We understand the closing the book, but it's more than that affects up here. So stay tuned. We will be right back after these messages.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% US-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
I'm still trying to fix my phone here. Sorry. I figured during the commercial, I tried to do something, but it just didn't work.
Hey,
sorry about that.
No worries, partner. Hey, I know that commercial was super fast, so I'll put it up here on the screen. You have a chance now to, not only give back to first responders and veterans just by talking on your phone. You don't have to get a new phone. You don't have to actually go off of the big 3 towers, because Patriot Mobile uses them. All you have to do is call 972-PATRIOT and tell them a Badge of Honor sent you by using promo code BADGE. You get a free month of service. So try it out. Or if you want to make an appointment online, they will call you back. Just go to patriotmobile.com/badge. You'll be on our landing page. Fill out the information, and a wonderful member of Patriot Mobile staff will call you. My son broke his phone. We needed a new one. Boom, boom, boom. Within 3 days, it came in the mail. He had to sign, or FedEx. He had to sign for it. Got everything ported over, and A+ for service. So thank you, Patriot Mobile. Now back to the show.
All right, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, with Evan Easter, longtime law enforcement officer, and now a developer of Fracture the Mind, right? Fracture the Brain. Fractured Brain.
Mind.
Sorry. Before we left, we were talking about, the scars that our job leaves behind. And when we talk about our younger officers nowadays, and God bless many of our police departments out there that have great peer support programs in place. They have a lot of good peer support officers that are really taking the role seriously. And like you said, Sam, in 2019, we had the highest rate of suicide. But all these grassroots organizations and all these officers that are out there trying to provide good mental health resources, we've seen that diminish over the years. Not by much, but we're still high in the numbers, but it's been diminishing, which shows that we are making an impact, worldwide. So that's a plus. But there's still a lot more work to be done.
100%. So, Evan, when you left narcotics, first of all, how did you leave? Did you just,
when I decided to, I just happened to have enough time. You have to turn it in by a certain date, as far as like bid work and things of that goes. And I essentially I kind of went in and told my boss I think it was time to go. I didn't really get into a lot of particulars at the time, but it was quite the shock. I got multiple phone calls because I was at the top of my game. I've made it, not from a bravado standpoint, but I've made a great name for myself. I was making incredible cases. When I do public speaking, I talk about my first $1 million drug case. Like, real life cannot provide the amount of dopamine and adrenaline that, seizing millions of dollars in drugs, walking across parking lots with hundreds or thousands of dollars. It's an incredible world. It really is. And so a lot of people were just pretty shocked when I just abruptly had walked away. I mean, there really wasn't any talk about it. I came in on a Monday after thinking about it all weekend long, and that was it.
Did you mention to anybody, did you mention to anybody about your daughter and the whole? No. Okay.
No.
So was that out of a fear that there would be some kind of backlash, or what was?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't really understand how to talk about that kind of stuff at that time. So I think I just kind of kept it internal.
Sure.
Like I don't know. I don't want to say I didn't want to appear weak or anything like that, but I guess I just didn't understand essentially what was going on still. I never talked to anybody at this point in my life. And so I just kind of kept it inside, and I thought life would become normal again.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we all think that. But you know what? Truthfully, when you say the word normal, you thought life was going to become normal again, but we all normalized the life. So that's the only life we knew. So we forget what we actually forget what normal life is, because we've led such an abnormal life that it became normal. Does that make sense?
100%. Because my life actually got worse when I walked away, because I was not doing super high-end things to where my brain would produce reward chemicals. So my life actually got worse, but in a streak of luck, we would have an insane amount of gang violence in 2018, and I would be repurposed again back, and they would give me an incredible partner. It's funny, I tell people not to stereotype people, because they gave me like a 5 foot tall, 100-pound blonde, and I thought, oh my gosh. But you know what? She was incredible. Like I tell people, not what I wanted at first, but 100% what I needed. We're super close, and we share the same birthday. She's just a lot younger, but she was incredible. I got a couple pretty wild stories from that time that obviously explained the whole thing about 0 to 1,000 miles an hour. The first one I'll tell you real quick. I was supposed to go to Punta Cana for a destination wedding. We had kind of talked about this a little bit, Sam. And I was standing in my kitchen talking to my wife, packing my clothes, ready to go. And you'll understand this too, John. And a call would come out of an argument in the hallway and a possible gunshot. This is at an apartment complex that's a minute and a half from my house. I mean, it's nothing of the ordinary or anything crazy. And as you know, nowadays, everybody literally has cell phones. There was one call. So I told my wife, you know what? I'll run down there and help these guys out. When you're working in specialty, you don't necessarily take calls for service. You don't count staffing or anything like that. So I drive over to the apartment location, a minute and a half from my house, and I pull up, I park, I get out and I start to walk towards the front of the building, and I can see through the front door. There's a glass pane, and there's 2 bodies face down on the floor. I open the door, and I am blasted with the smell of burnt gunpowder. There's smoke from floor to the ceiling of the foyer of this apartment. So I grab them. They're on top of each other, and I split them. I'm looking at them. Their eyes are open. Their mouths are open. I can tell they're no longer alive. And then you'll understand the gravity of this. I step back, and I look down, and I'm literally standing in a sea of spent rifle casings. The whole entire lobby foyer floor is covered in rifle casings. To be exact, it's 27 rounds.
Wow.
But somebody said one shot, or wow.
One shot. Yeah. Somebody said a possible gunshot in a fight in the hallway. That is 0 to 1,000 miles an hour in the blink of an eye. So you have to be able to eat that, process that. Go ahead.
That 0 to 1,000. Yeah. You are packing for a vacation wedding, a destination wedding. Your mind is so relaxed, like, oh, I'm going to go away, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, see, no one realizes the brain becomes so damaged when it goes from that mode to survival mode to trauma mode. And then how do you rewind yourself back? You can't.
You don't. So yeah, I ended up going back out to my car, I grabbed my rifle, I came back in, I stepped around them, and I cleared the bottom floor. And then I came back through the foyer and started to go upstairs, and I started to see bullet holes in the handrails, and I realized the window above my head was completely blown out. And I got to the top of the landing, and I could see down the hallway, and there was a couple shell casings down the hallway. So I know it started upstairs and ended downstairs, and I knew from the positioning of the shells, I had 1 or 2 apartments. So I ended up laying on the floor until backup got right to make myself as humanly small as possible. Because I knew if the door opened, I would know what door it was, and I would probably see a rifle present. And if I had to shoot, I could just shoot straight through the door. And I ended up holding the kid in a apartment. It was just a drug rip gone wrong. And during the process, they didn't have any ammo in their guns, and he came out with a rifle, and he had plenty of ammo, and that's how it ended.
Wow. That's,
And another one, go ahead.
That's daily life, and our officers are experiencing that each and every day. Maybe, they're having coffee on their break, sitting on a corner, and all of a sudden gunshots are going off. They're going from relax mode to, like you said, 0 to 1,000 in less than a split second. And that's time and time again. And this is where our academies, our instructors have to tell people how to decompress, how to take a break, how to step back after these calls. And instead of going from one to the next, we got to have some healing process in between.
And in this case, Evan, you had to go home and do the packing for the wedding thing. We're going to pick this story up when we come back from our next break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, with our guest, Evan Easter. We were just discussing before we took that break, man, going from 0 to 1,000 in a split second causes major mental health trauma to everybody that experiences it. The normal society doesn't go through that, but maybe 3 or 4 times in a lifetime. When our first responders are experiencing this 400 to 800 times in a career, and the damage it plays not only mentally, physically, and medically, with all those cortisol, dopamine dumps, the chemical dumps from the brain, they cause cardiovascular issues. They cause heart issues. There's a lot of different medical issues that are also associated with this trauma that these officers are experiencing each and every day.
Yeah. So Evan, let's pick back up. The scene is, you're cleared from the scene, and you're back home trying to pack. Did the wedding happen?
Yeah, we flew to the Dominican. Actually, I met up with a bunch of detectives that were already there. They were obviously what in the world happened, because they were all in the Dominican after that. So yeah, obviously it was still tough to try to kind of relax after that. We weren't there for a long time because that's, again, that something like that just doesn't go away after an hour or a couple of days, No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another great example of this before I'll kind of transition into some mental health stuff is me and my partner, my amazing partner. We were tracking a crew all summer long using a social media platform, and we could see their pictures and those kind of things and whatnot. One night we saw them in a football game, and they left. They got into a Saturn, and the whole driver's side smashed, and it was still functional with prior damage from a wreck. But I tried to stop them that night, and I didn't get PC. And then probably 2 weeks later, I stopped the car, and I told them to get out of the car. I said, I got a canine coming, because obviously I could establish probable cause, to use a dog at that point with all the information that we had gathered. You just need reasonable suspicion. And he told me, he said, if I would have had what he was looking for, I would have never stopped this car. So see, there was nothing in the car that night. Fast forward again about 2 weeks later, and we catch him on social media. Again, my partner does. And then we end up locating the car because they had location services on. So we essentially had a GPS through our phones. But anyway, we find the car. It's loaded down. These are ultra dangerous people. I think almost all 4 of them are in jail for shooting people now at this point. These are ultra dangerous people. They are violent, highly violent. So anyway, the car pulls onto the street, turns left to go south in a Linden in our town, no turn signal. I said, that's good enough. Let's take them. So I jump on the car. I don't even get the lights on. They're 100 mile an hour in oncoming traffic, up onto the sidewalk, across the road, gone. We have a no pursuit policy, which I'm not against anyway. I don't even know who was driving the car. I just know it was loaded down. So the car goes back home. And the reason we know that's because we have a GPS. And my partner at the time was like, they went home. I go, what do you want to do? And she said, let's go get them. I said, all right. And I just assume that this car is going to be empty when we get there. So we drive to Bloomington, where this car is going to be. It's in a pretty high crime area, a pretty dangerous area. You have to go in a super long, dark alley. So I kill the lights on our squad car to conceal our approach. And as we're rolling down the alley, I get to the car and I can see the front of the Saturn. And as we roll by, I'll never forget looking over, and I lock faces with all 4 dudes that are still in the car. It is 0 to 1,000 miles an hour because they want to get out. And if one of those dudes starts shooting, the rest of them start shooting. It's just sympathetic fire is all it is. So we had to move with absolute speed and violence of action. And we ended up getting all 4 of them. And just me and her in a back alley in Bloomington, Illinois.
Wow.
It's just another example of, just insanely dangerous.
And well, what was in the car?
Guns.
Okay. So
there was a gun under the car. I think there was another gun in the car.
Wow.
Yeah, it was guns everywhere.
So at this point, you've already this is your second assignment in terms of where you've gone in your career, or third. You probably started on patrol.
Started on patrol. I'd already been on the SWAT team once. I already been repurposed once to our gang unit. I did a decade undercover, and now I'm back in the gang unit again.
Oh wow. Okay. So let's talk about the fractured mind, because at this point, are you talking to anybody at all? No. Okay. No, I've
never talked to anybody. So, even after this, I still went back to narcotics again as a temp sergeant to fill in for a military leave. And I don't have a whole lot of time on here today, but I ended up supervising a murder warrant that went wild with a canine in the house. Again, it bit him in the very last room. It was, again, 0 to 1,000. And then I came out of that. And in 2021, just shortly before January of 21, so December, I think it was of 21, I got in a foot pursuit. It was, I was dispatched to a car burglary suspect. I just assumed it was a little 15-year-old kid or something going through car stealing change. Even a couple of my buddies, they texted me and were like, hey, have fun babysitting all night counting change. Well, I ended up finding him, and we ended up getting in a foot pursuit, and it ended up being one of the most ultra dangerous people in our town. The Martians had been after him for a while. He had like 5 United States extraditable warrants, and he threw a stolen gun. He dropped a stolen gun. It probably would have been my first OIS that I ever had. I'm talking, when I say ultra dangerous, these people are incredibly dangerous. So shortly after that, in 21, the wheels came off. I literally went to bed in January of 21. And I woke up the next day with a 100% complete fracture of the mind. That is the only way I can describe it to you. The thought of going to work as a police officer, it physically made me sick. I was like, there's absolutely no way I am doing this at all. No way. My brain essentially, I think it just finally figured out what had done or it was just done, and I knew what had done so much damage to me, and I wanted to get away from it, right now.
So this was just upon waking. How were you dealing with everything up to this point? Were you sleeping well?
No.
Is the drinking increased?
Yes. Yes.
And were you just trying to keep your head down and stay distracted with work?
I think John hit it. This is all I've known. I've been doing this now for 18 years. Literally, I just stepped on the gas when I got hired, and I have not let off in 18 years. I'm omitting 100 stories.
Well, so we're talking with Evan Easter. He's the founder of The Fractured Mind. You can find him at thefracturedmind.com. So you wake up, and it must have felt like, I don't even know with the words, like a dream, like you were in a dream or something that you've done and you've loved for 18 years, and then it's like
Yes. I was terrified to go to work, literally terrified.
See, everybody has different triggers. Sam, you have a trigger that triggered you on your thing. I had a trigger. Evan, you mentally, you went to sleep. You could have had a dream that triggered you to bring you this. So, and this is why when we talk, trauma is individualized. And that's why it's so scary, because you don't know what that next trigger will be that's going to set you off into that danger zone or down into that rabbit hole. It could be
Go ahead. You're all right.
No, it could be a smell, a sound, a sight, a touch, It could be, anything, a color, just something could set that mind to say, you know what, a threat, and put you down that rabbit hole. That's why it's a scary issue.
It was, it got way worse. It was horrific. I come up with a game plan, but it shows the incredible resiliency of human beings, as I talked about, because I had this incredible strategy. So this was in January. I think what made it worse is I wanted to go do something different, but I couldn't until July, essentially, for the next 6 months, which was a bid. So, this is where I was placed at, and I wasn't going to tell anybody what was going on. So luckily, I didn't count the staffing. I had a massive amount of time off. So the first thing I did, I just needed that monster to be smaller, to where it wasn't such the monster that I needed it to be. What's a good word? I needed it to be smaller to where I could live and I could go, okay, I can do this. This is all right. So the first thing I did was I took every Saturday off. I said, I'll work 30 hours a week. That's it. I was working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6P to 4A. So 10-hour days was my 40-hour week. I told myself, I'll work 30 hours. I can do that. But the problem was I was doing zero police work. I stopped doing all police work. I literally would go to work and hide for my entire shift. So as you can only imagine, I was getting no brain reward chemicals. The amount of hopelessness that would begin to take over my life is insane, because I had done so much damage through neuroplasticity that that I had this threshold for my brain to produce those reward chemicals. I had to be doing those things and I was doing nothing. So as you can only imagine, 30 became too much. At one point, luckily, I still had quite a bit of time off left and I could leave early every Friday. So I said, I'll do this for 25 hours. And then eventually 25 became too much in the walls. Once it started, I couldn't stop. The walls just started to close in and I couldn't hold them back. There was no way of stopping this.
Now, did anybody offer you, like, what year was this?
This was in 2021.
2021.
Did anybody mention anything to you?
Yeah.
So yes, about 3 months into this, when I was telling myself, essentially, I told myself 25 was Friday. Then I told myself Friday was a free day, literally, because I'm going to go in at 6 and leave at 11. I didn't have to do anything. So it's only 20 hours. And then eventually I told myself Wednesday, Thursday is the 20 hours. And I go, actually, the worst thing about it was 11 at night until 4 in the morning on Wednesday and Thursday. There's no car on the road. It's literally you, your brain, and pitch black. You can drive 60, your brain drives 60. And I always said, I give my department credit. I think this is a really important part of your show for people. I've always given my department credit because they did pull me off the street and they said, what is going on? And here's the problem, though. I think departments, I tell people, you have to prepare a path or you're going to be preparing a speech for somebody's funeral, because I didn't know what that looked like. When they said they reached out for help, or we can get you to EAP, or we can do this, I saw it as a trap. I was like, there's no way you're going to take my job. You're going to, and I was and you're asking me to make a decision when I'm in a completely irrational state of mind.
Yeah, but pulling you off the street, and I get that, okay? But just pulling you off, like, we've had guys that either got jammed up or were stressing out, and they pull them off and they put them on the telephone answering or TS. And now they're like what we used to call a house mouse, right? But yeah, if somebody was zeroing in saying, hey, we got to pull Evan off the street. He needs some help. Why wasn't help offered? Why didn't they sit you down and go, hey, brother, we got an issue. We want to be here for you. We want to support you. Let's get you some therapeutic relief. Let's get you to talk to somebody instead of just pulling you off the street and putting you in your own mind.
Yeah, they did. I'll give them credit for that. They were like, "Is something wrong with your wife? Is something wrong with your marriage? Is something wrong with your kids?" And I'm saying, no. I have a beautiful wife. I have 2 incredible kids. I have an award-winning career. None of this made any sense to me at all. I still didn't know anything about the brain. I didn't know anything about cortisol, dope. I didn't know anything. So this was so foreign to me. I think so many people think that it's cops and they go, well, it was after the 20th maybe dead kid or something. That's not my case at all. I'm out here winning. I'm getting awards. I'm just out here tearing it up until I wasn't anymore. So I think that was part of it too, was I just didn't understand anything. I didn't understand how I got here, how this had gone so horribly wrong. And I did a lot of damage to my marriage over this time. And eventually like I told you, I got to 20, and then finally I told you it was 10 hours because it was 6 or 11 at night until 4 in the morning both days. And I was just trying to get off the bid. And eventually I found a lunch in there both nights, and I got it to 8. And then eventually I told myself 3 at night till 4 in the morning is kind of a free time. You just do reports and unload your car. And I made it to the bid. And I got it down to I just need to stay alive for 6 hours a week.
Wow. I mean, you broke it down. That's your journey to survive. At this point, when we come back from our next break, you're surviving barely, and we'll pick up the story there. I don't know about you, John, but I've got this is like watching a movie. I'm on the edge of my seat. And we've got our partners at East Texas Legends Coffee supplying the coffee, founded by Ben and Amanda Holmes. It reflects their journey from Ben's Marine Corps service and law enforcement career, overcoming post-traumatic stress to finding purpose in ranching. Relocating to an East Texas ranch, they identified a need for a local coffee brand. Now they're opening their first coffee shop in Lindale, Texas, rooted in faith, family, and community. Their mission: inspire purposeful conversations over coffee. So drink coffee, be legendary. Go to etxlegendscoffee.com. Use promo code BADGE for 15% off coffee and merch, or just put your phone up to the screen right there and hover over that QR code. It'll take you right there. They will ship whatever you want to your house. Again, use promo code BADGE for 15% off. And I have to say, given a testimonial, I spoke with somebody today who was lucky enough to receive a sample of their coffee. And his words, "My God, this alone can cure all depression." So for Ben and Amanda, I mean, that's like huge. So we love East Texas Legends Coffee. We love their merch. Whoops, got to get my mug in there we go. My tumbler. So keeps the coffee hot all day. Delicious. So grab yourself a bag, 235. etxlegendscoffee.com, promo code BADGE for 15% off. Now back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and our guest, Evan Easter. We were talking before we left. We're talking about, the damage and the things we don't see while we're on the job. And like Evan, you were telling us, you just kept cutting your hours. They pulled you off the street. You were actually sinking down that rabbit hole, and you had no lifeline. And you probably didn't even realize now you're sinking. It's quicksand, and you're getting down to you're falling further and further down, and nobody's helping you out. And I see that. We have seen that. We're getting a lot better now, but we have seen that in the past. And back in 21, it was kind of a new thing, maybe. Not everybody was really on board with the mental health thing. So I'm glad you came out of that in the way you did. How did you? Yeah.
In the most unbelievable set of circumstances you could ever believe in your entire life. Again, I've done so much damage. My marriage is pretty much over at this point. Like you said, I'm just living. I finally made it to the bid. I think it was okay. Like, it was my first biggest win because I just survived the worst 6 months of my life. This was in July of 21. I went to afternoons, I think, with weekends off. So at least I was home. My wife saw a little bit of hope because I had a little bit of change. Like, I think I got some dopamine for the first time, that I was just so thankful that I wasn't out there in the middle of the night and I had a change. But then in August 30th of 2021, I was dispatched to a North Normal mobile home park for a person shot. I really wasn't, again, I don't want to sound like bravado. I'm not that guy. I'm super humble, but I've been to this so many times. I talked about one instance in here already. Like, I wasn't concerned with this. But the whole thing would rapidly spiral out of control into an active shooter in progress. And I was the first person there, and I would begin to play the most dangerous game of hide and seek humanly possible. A couple of my buddies would join me, and we'd make our way. I find him out in the middle of the street. I tell him to drop the gun. I've never had anybody do this either. He actually squats down and punches out, and he tries to find me. And I knew how this was going to go. And then we ended up in a giant gunfight running through this mobile home park. And then it ends up with me and him in the front yard on Lambert Drive at 7 yards, literally just standing 7 yards in front of each other, just cranking rounds at each other. And by the grace of God, my rounds started to find their mark, and I was able to put it into it. And his bullets were going everywhere but inside my body. I was never hit.
Wow.
And so the key to the story is after this, you have to go see an EAP counselor. You don't have a choice in the matter. It's the law. Well, the thing about it is I can remember when my kids liked me. I can remember my kids ran to me instead of from me. I can remember when I could sleep in bed with my wife. I remember when I wasn't downstairs. I remember when I wasn't out of my mind. Like I knew, man, maybe this was a chance to get better. So I'm going to apply myself 100%. I have nothing to lose. I'm young. My kids are young. My marriage is young. You know, I was only like 44 or something at the time. Like I have so much life left. Like I need to figure this out somehow. And so I went to my first EAP counselor. I tell people all the time, like, again, I never talked to somebody. And I told him, I said, look, I'm not here for shooting this person. Like I am. It was a catalyst that got me here, but I had a massive amount of problems before that ever happened. And they were like, we got to get you to a specialist that can take care of you. Somebody more of a single stage event counselor. So they sent me to a specialist who did absolutely incredible things, explained all of this, how the brain works, explained how much trauma I had done. And then I did a super aggressive EMDR therapy through this process. And I think when somebody helped make it make sense, it was a lot more digestible. I'll never forget when I told him what was going on. I was like, man, I was so close to ending my own life. He goes, yeah, that's completely normal with what you've been through. I think he's never been like the real soft talker kind of a thing that you all think about, like touchy feelings. Like there's some of that in there, but it's more like you're completely normal with where you are with what you've been through, but we can get you back to where we go. The thing about a fracture is when it heals, most of the time it heals back stronger. Mm-hmm. And so there's kind of a super aha moment as I'm doing. I did the tappers. A lot of people, I didn't want to do lights or anything. Again, I didn't know anything about this. He explained to me how this works and how essentially I'd done so much damage in 21 when it all went south. The left side of my brain essentially turned off. The left side of your brain is for logic. The right side of your brain is for basically emotions. And that's why my emotions were so out of control. Because when this happens, there's an article that a girl named Caroline King writes about this. It's a complete disconnect between the left brain, right brain, which is what EMDR is trying to fix at this point. So when that happens it's like riding a lawnmower across your yard and then as fast as it can go. And then the left side tires quit turning, which is essentially like the left side of my brain. The right side tires spin twice as fast because it tries to do the job of both. Now go mow your yard.
Yeah. Now you're spinning.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Good luck. You can't. And so it's the same thing. Go live a normal life. Good luck. You can't. But there's a super aha moment in all of this after I did EMDR for a while, pretty aggressive. It's kind of cool how they go all the way back to the very beginning. They don't just start like here. They go, you were born July 25th, 1978 and go. So, I mean, you learn so much along the way. It was incredible. But I tell people all the time when I'm doing public speaking events, I don't know why, but during this time, I decided to start watching Yellowstone. It's not the most wholesome show, but I don't know why. But then I tell people, actually, I'll be truthful with you. It was like Rip Mania. I thought if I wore some black gloves, some aviators, and a toothpick, my wife would not be able to resist me. And she 100% was able to resist me. But there's a really powerful moment. And this always gets it. You can hear the audience when I do a keynote or I do public speaking. So there's an American Indian lady, and she's sitting in a chair, and she's looking out the window, and she's looking at her beautiful kids, and they're squealing, chasing each other down a slide. They're on a swing, pushing each other. They're having the time of their lives. And the camera starts to pan back towards the window, and you can see an American Indian lady sitting there, and her face starts to draw up, and she starts to look down, and the violin starts to play super low, real moving. And I can tell, I can start like, I'm not comfortable with this. And then the camera starts to slide over, and there's a pistol on a side table. And I said, goodbye, I'm out here. I'm not watching this. And I can remember going back to therapy like a day or two later. It was such a moving thing. It was so odd. And I was explaining to my therapist that I was so broken that I couldn't watch TV. And he was like, no, hold on. Let's not jump to conclusions here. He goes, let's talk about what really happened. You watched a highly emotional television show, which is their job. That's what they're supposed to do. It's a highly relatable event for you, and you're watching this, and the left side of your brain is taking this in, the logic side, and it's processing everything. And eventually it gets enough information that it goes, yo, right side brain, let's get some emotion. And your brain dropped a massive amount of empathy on your brain. And it was just, you hadn't had that for probably 15 or 16 years. And he goes, welcome back, kid. And it was incredible. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
And thank you so much for telling that story. When you told it to me, before the show, it is that's how it is. And you come away with the aha moments and you're like, God, I was so close to just doing the dumbest thing ever in my life.
Yeah.
And now it's like a pathway opens and the whole world is now in front of you, and you get to put it kind of all back together. We got to take our last quick break. When we come back, let's talk about putting it all together and how people can reach you. We'll be back in a minute.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and our guest, Evan Easter. We've had an amazing show so far, really educational, highlighting so many things that our law enforcement officers on a daily basis go through, and the symptoms that appear out of nowhere, and we don't understand why. And that's okay that you don't understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And that's why Eric's bringing this all to light to say it's perfectly normal to feel this way. Here's how to cope with it.
So, Evan, how did you put stuff back together after that?
After that, I did that. And eventually, I came back to work. And I still go to therapy at least once a month. I call it mental maintenance. I think now I've still been through some big stuff. I was actually in front of a store in October of last year when an armed robbery call came out. And I was in front of the store while it was being robbed.
Wow.
And so obviously the dude came out and he ended up pulling a gun, and a car had moved into a space behind them. So I actually didn't fire, or I would have been in another OIS there. But I too, after that, like, I just have a space and a place. Like, I understand it all. I understand what it looks like to ask for help if I need it. And I think it's super important too for people, like, again, I had done so much damage. Like, my kids didn't sign up for this, and my wife didn't sign up for this. I don't think people listening to that, asking for help isn't just for you. Like, my kids needed dad. My wife needed her husband. I didn't talk about it a whole lot. When I first got hired, it was impossible to get this job. Like, I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have military. I wasn't a minority. All those people got preference points. There was 500-600 people testing. I couldn't get it. And I literally drove home. I was a correctional officer, and I begged God for like an hour just to please open this door. But obviously here we are. I had no idea what I was asking for. But after my OIS, again, my marriage was pretty much over. My wife thought this was going to be the end of it. I was stuck in internal affairs. This is something cool that I do when I do keynotes too. It's an unbelievably powerful moment. And it just shows how even in our state that we affect those around us with just tremendous amounts of secondary trauma. My wife writes an incredible note, and she had it on the cabinet door. It's still there. It's mere feet from me right here. On the other side of the door was a giant bottle of whiskey because she knew 1,000% I was going to be drinking when I got home from shooting somebody. My phone was stuck in my car at the crime scene. I didn't get home until 12:30 at night. And this incredible note's there. And now when I do public speaking, I share this note on a QR code. People get to tangibly hold it. And I play the audio of my wife reading it in these giant Coliseum rooms. And it just shows the power of even that this comes home with you. It doesn't just stay at work. It shows like the real power of it. But the cool thing is, like I said, I begged God for the one thing I couldn't get, which was this job. And in the end, my wife would beg God for the one thing she couldn't get, which is her husband back. And that's exactly what happened. I never believed my life would be saved by an OIS.
Wow. Wow. Well, how do people, what's the best way for people to reach you? I've got your website here, thefracturedmind.com. Do you play anywhere on social?
I do have a Facebook page. I'm not super active. I'm getting more and more. I've only been at this for like just over a year. And the opportunities have been incredible. I'm getting ready to close another conference. Like, the reception again has just been insane. So it just lets you know that your message is so powerful, and that's really changing people's lives. We just lost an officer, which this one hurts because he was only probably a half hour away from where I was speaking last month to suicide. So there's a lot of work to be done. Like, and my message is obviously out there that I'm literally 100% living proof that you can heal your fractured mind and reclaim your peace. So just being able to speak to these people, and just the more that I do it, the more that I'm vulnerable, the more that I share it, the more that I get opportunity, the more that it gets out there. I mean, I'm so grateful for you guys reaching out to help share my story, because I think if I can just save one person, it's worth it through this show. I mean, after I was in Oakbrook, I got some direct messages from people that were like, I tell people, if this message hits you in your heart right now, go talk to somebody. You do not have to live in the darkness. There's a way out besides booze and bullets. 100%. I'm living proof of that. And if, you know, here's the thing, too, like we talked about, maybe this shows up a month from now and you go, oh my gosh, this is exactly what he's talking about. Go talk to somebody before this thing drags you down a road that you don't want to go. And I think it helps build resiliency in people to see what I've gone through and where I've come out and where I am now.
Absolutely. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on tonight, sharing some of your story. You'll have to write a book, like we tell a lot of people. TheFractured.com is Evan's website. You can reach him there. We found each other actually on LinkedIn. I know you play over there.
Around there.
As well. And yeah, we just thank you so much. It takes a lot of courage to come on and let people know, hey, you know, first of all, everything we're going through is normal, but you need to get help. Don't stay in it.
And I think the thing too is people just have a misconception. Even cops have a misconception, like John was talking about. Like, again, I don't talk about these ultra traumatic murder scenes that I'm sure people have had them. There's people that have done less than me that are worse off. And there's people that have done more than me that are fine. Like, everybody's journey is completely different, but you don't have to just go through these high end arrests and these super ultra cases and things. Like, they can do a lot of damage, but they don't mirror what you think trauma looks like.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. And that's what people really have to examine for themselves. And again, if you want to reach out, you're not sure if you want to go to a counselor yet, reach out to Evan. He will help you. Again, his website is thefracturedmind.com. And let's get a conversation started. Thank you so much, Evan, for coming on.
Thank you, Evan.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
So there is I started the show. There is a video of the shooting he was talking about. I'm saving it for the end, so you guys can go do your own research on YouTube. But you can find a little bit of it, and you can see that adrenaline, that 0 to 1,000, and frankly, what it takes to be a police officer these days. It is heart pounding. And like I said, it's almost like you're watching a movie, but this is real life. So we thank him for coming on. You know what else is real life? I see yours is behind you. Oh, it doesn't come out when I blur the screen. Get your book down. So thank you. There we go. Thank you, Mike Barron. I got my copy too. So really appreciate you putting your stories. So The Thin Blue Line, we had Mike on. Go grab your copy. I think the personalized copies that we have, I think he sold out of those, but you can find it. You know, we got to thank our partners with Carry the Load. Exactly what Evan was talking about, the fractured mind. We work with first responders and veterans alike that go through this, and just know there is hope. And we're so blessed to be part of the Carry the Load's Continuum of Care nonprofit partnership. And what that means is when you donate to Carry the Load through us, they give back to programs that help our first responders and our veterans get exactly the assistance that Evan was talking about. Right now, we're in our Memorial May campaign. Please, 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 literally every penny counts. Go to abadgeofhonor.org. There's a pop-up. You can donate or join our team. And when you join the team, I'll be in touch with you to help you start your fundraising. But we can't do it alone. Evan's got roomfuls of people. He knows he can't do it alone. All of our guests know we've got to do this as a family. We've got to heal as a family. So please, abadgeofhonor.org, click on that donate. Every penny count. Thank you to Carry the Load. We'll be starting a Memorial May campaign, so you'll get to meet some of the new faces and the nonprofit partnerships coming up here end of April all the way through May. And with that, in terms of healing, our friends Joe and Liz Bartholomew at First Responders Retreat, they've got a retreat coming up in September into October. So the very end of September into October, firstrespondersretreat.org. You can sign up. Their spaces are going fast. So if you want to be in a beautiful place of nature, Northern Lights, the whole shebang, it is absolutely gorgeous. Heal in nature, firstrespondersretreat.org. Sign up there. And we have been on the road a lot, working with different departments. If you want to have us come to you to put on an 8-hour program, TCOL certified for those that are in law enforcement, again, badgeofhonor.org, all of our programs are there. To all of our law enforcement out there, thank you for what you do, putting your lives on the line every day, serving communities across this nation. We pray for your safe return home every single night. To our veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show like this every single week. And to our active duty personnel that is spread out across the globe, we are praying for you as well, especially what's going on in Iran. We pray that you get home safely. We've already lost enough. We need to stop. And we pray that you get home safe to your families. Thank you for keeping our shores safe here at home. John, take us home.
Well, just on that note, man, you said it all. I want to thank the President of the United States. I want to thank Donald J. Trump for not pulling out any stops and going to save our servicemen who were shot down in the F-15 over Iran and bringing them home safely. You know, he didn't pull out any punches, put every resource possible to get out there. And that's a leader that we need. We need all our captains, our lieutenants, everybody in our police department to do that same thing. We see a down person in our department, we have to pull out every arsenal and weaponry we can to bring them home safe and to make sure they go home safe. So thank President Trump for doing what you did for our country and our servicemen and women. Peace.
Till next week, everybody.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.